Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live boxing review show. Delighted to be joined by Jason Murphy from Jay's Fight Talk YouTube and Liam Tully. How are we, lads? We well?
All good.
All good,
Stuff.
boys.
Good stuff. Yeah, plenty to uncover and talk about in this one. Then we'll start from your call, Bethnal Green. We'll look at Denzel Bentley, who put in a fantastic performance last night. We did the watch along with everybody last night with a fantastic uppercut in round two, which Jason did call. In fairness, he toed and froed over a prediction whether he was going to go late or whether he was going to go round two TKO, but he famously said at 7:05 in the live watch along, and I've watched it back. I'll give him his credit; he did call it.
He did call it.
He did. But on a serious note, what a shot by Denzel Bentley that was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I think we were talking on the live, weren't we, about 30 seconds before, and it looked like he was trying. I think I actually say on the live, it looks like he's trying to walk him onto an uppercut, and 30 seconds later, crash, bang, wallop. No need for a count. It was punch perfect, as cliche as it sounds. It was absolutely punch perfect. I'm over the moon for him. We were saying on the live, weren't we, that, and we've been saying it all week, he needed a big performance, a breakout performance as such in phase two, if we can call it that, of him trying to climb the mountain again. He never put a foot wrong. I think Osaze didn't get a chance, did he? Really?
No,
definitely not. And I know I was saying before the fight on the watch along that you don't want to see Denzel coast to a points decision here. You want to see him go through the gears. You want to see him get a stoppage. That's how we know that he's still serious. That's how we know he still wants to be in the ring, taking the steps back towards world level, if that's where he's destined to go. So the fact we saw him not only deliver a performance, but set up the punch, completely ice an opponent who, had a stop-start career, had lost before, but was durable, was supposed to take him rounds. It wasn't meant to be ended in that way in the second rounds.
I think Denzel stuffed everything I'd said in this past week right straight back down my throat. I think I'd said that he fights within himself and he always looks as though he's got a gear or so to go and it's going to be a tight, long drawn-out points victory. And then I changed my mind just before, begrudgingly, but for some reason, I don't know, he just looked on it last night. Like, whoever was in front of him last night was getting that. And as we said, Osaze never got going. It looked fairly close the first round. They were sort of figuring each other out. And then Bentley seemed to catch him, read his timing, and just caught him as clean as you can.
They didn't. Neither man had to go looking for each other in the first round. They both planting their feet, letting their hands go from early on, which showed that Osaze was there to fight. He wasn't looking to coast on the back foot and hopefully get 3 to 10 rounds. And it showed that Denzel had some intent as well. Too many times, especially in recent fights, if we think back to when he lost his British and Commonwealth belts against Heaney, he started too slowly on the back foot. He almost allowed his opponent to come onto him. Yeah. Whereas last night he decided he was dictating the pace. Okay, my jab is going to land first. I'm going to find my range and it'll be my shots that get off first. And that's the Bentley we saw on his run through the British title. Like I said last night, when he knocked out Kieran Smith in 45 seconds, that was a similar fast start. Got his jab established straight away, was on the right hook. And one thing I will say about Denzel, when he wants to pick a punch and he wants to land a punch to close the show, he is capable of doing it. And that's not the first example we saw last night of him completely finishing off an opponent.
Yeah, I think Sam mentioned it on the beginning of the broadcast last night that he's not got an 84-85% KO ratio for nothing, has he? He can obviously hit hard, but it's whether he carries that power up the levels. I know Osaze had been inactive for a while, but ultimately, cliche again, you can only beat who's put in front of you. And he was not an unbeaten fighter, but we'll mention the guy again. He'd only lost to Tyler Denny, hadn't he? And we know how good he is. And Bentley just made it look like Osaze didn't deserve to be in there. And that's not saying he didn't, but that's how it looked. He just smashed him. It wasn't even a workout for him.
Yeah, that was Denzel to me saying to Queensbury, saying to other fighters at British Commonwealth level, right, I've had my 2 fights now. I've headlined at York Hall twice. I've had 2 opponents put in front of me to make me look good. I'm ready for bigger things now. He wants a piece of this. This is what I'm bringing to the table at this point in my career. Who's going to come and stand in front of me and give me a fight? And that's what we wanted to see from Denzel. we didn't want to be sitting there for 45 minutes watching him coast through a 10-rounder and then going, oh, what's he got left? Well, I'm not too sure. The fact that he gave us a statement was exactly what I know me and Sam were saying beforehand, what we wanted to see. And you jumped on board from a points decision just before it happened, Jace, as well, which was always good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
definitely. So, he's WBO number 2, Denzel Bentley, as we're discussing last night. He's already had a fight with champion Janibek, which he performed really well in Vegas a couple of years ago. We know he's probably not going to get a world title shot off the back of knocking Derek Osaze out. No disrespect to Osaze there, obviously. But, what kind of fights do you think we're looking at next for Denzel Bentley?
I want Eubank Jr. I think that's a fight. I think Denzel Bentley and Eubank Jr. could put on a fantastic fight. London, O2, somewhere like that. Could be a massive undercard. They could put the likes of Dennis McCann in a European title fight, or there's a card to be made there, I think. Or another name, I think one of you lads mentioned it during the week, maybe Shane Mosley Jr. I think he's kicking about. He's just had a good win, hasn't he? He's a name. I know he's not his dad, but he's a name.
He's ranked top 10 with all 4 of the governing bodies as well, Mosley Jr. So if Bentley wants to spread his cards across the deck, because these belts are probably going to become vacant at some point in the next 12 to 18 months, that's a good fight to see. For me, it all depends on exactly what he wants to do next. Is he ready now to make that step up to fringe world level? Or does he feel like he's still got a point to prove domestically? Brad Pauls has obviously just become the new British and Commonwealth champion. He's above that level, you would say, even though he's lost in his last fight. But to me, does he want to prove a point? Does he want to win his belts back that he's had in the past whilst we're waiting to see the picture at world level, see what belts become
Felix
vacant?
Cash rematch, maybe? Felix Cash rematch?
I'm not convinced we see Cash fight again. Personally, I'm not sure if we're going to see Felix again.
Really?
We know he's had his troubles outside the ring. We know the position he was in after he fought Felix Cash during lockdown, and obviously Tyler Denny was his first fight since he fought in Leeds at the back end of 2022. Just think other issues outside of the ring, personal life, the fact he hasn't always been able to live the lifestyle of a fighter, I think might finally catch up with him. I don't think he's got the heart to carry on and go through another training camp, personally. Would love to be proven wrong. I always thought Felix Cash had the ability to mix with the best at this middleweight division, but I can't see it happen personally now.
Any room for a Nathan Heaney rematch for Denzel Bentley, trying to get that one back that he lost? Heaney put his career best performance up that night, really, didn't he, against Denzel Bentley? He boxed really well. Realistically, I think Denzel Bentley probably beats Nathan Heaney 8 or 9 times out of 10 every time. But I think Heaney just performed really well that night, and Denzel Bentley was flat as a pancake. I think that's kind of what happened that night. But it's not a fight that I'm clamoring for. I actually really like to see Denzel Bentley against Brad Pauls. I think that would be a cracking fight.
Great fight.
For me, the Heaney fight, there's no belts on the line now, so it's not as if you can say, right, you're getting back at your British and Commonwealth. It doesn't do anything for Denzel, really. It's another marking time fight like we've seen him have so far this year. If he wants to make more steps forward but stay at the British level, then Brad Pauls is the fight to make. Frank, as I said last night, Frank has said he wants to do a card down on the Southwest with the fighters he's got, so you could see that happening November, December time, definitely. In theory, Bentley hasn't taken any punishment so far this year. Brad Pauls, assuming he hasn't needed any surgery, should be ready to go by the end of the year as well. So it makes both fighters.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a domestic fight, isn't it? I think I saw it on X earlier on today. Bentley and Troy Williamson had a bit of a conversation. I think Troy had given him his flowers and praised him and said, look, I'd like that fight. But Troy's coming off is he coming off 3 losses?
3 and 4, I think it is.
He's coming off 2 or 3 losses.
At 54, hasn't he? He's been, Troy, he's been at like super welterweight.
Yeah, he was a champ at 154. I think he lost his belt to Josh Kelly, didn't he? And then he's fought Ajarko and Ishmael Davis.
Davis, that was it.
At 160. So, for me, that's a good fight. I'm biased. I know Troy well.
Unfortunately, couldn't come on tonight. I know whoever's with us might have been expecting Troy to be on, but we will get him soon. Unfortunately, he just couldn't make it last minute.
Something come up, so he had to let us down, unfortunately. But he will be on. They will be on with us in the coming next couple of shows. But yeah, I mean, that's another fight. There's a lot of domestic fights that could be made, but I think Paul's is probably the one that I would prefer out of them all in terms of
that fight.
Taking them either of them to the, it's more of a springboard. As you said, if Heaney, there's not a belt on the line, he might want to get the loss back, but is he that bothered? We don't know without asking the man himself. He'll have to come on.
And that's the same way I'm looking at the Troy fight. That is a high stakes, high reward fight for both fighters. But when there's not even a British or Commonwealth level strap on it, it's not going to, especially to Denzel, it's not going to, the risk is too high for it to have nothing on the line. If he was to win the British and Commonwealth and he needs to, keep himself active whilst waiting to see what happens on a world level, then absolutely a first defence against Troy would be fantastic. That would be, you never see a bad British title fight, as the adage goes, and that 100% would live up to it without a shadow of a doubt.
I think we've just spoke about it. I know it's totally different. We're on about one of the UFC fighters had sort of taken a risk and fought a guy 5 or 6 places below him in the rankings and got beat, and he's lost his number 5 ranking. So there's always a massive risk when there's no belts involved. So yeah, I think I'm just leading with my heart, trying to get Troy a big fight, but ultimately Denzel Bentley would be taking a massive risk for very little reward. So,
yeah, I think that's where it's at that stage. Bentley's fought for world championships, and he's going to be.
There'd have to be something at the end of it to make him take that risk, because ultimately Troy is no pushover. He gives anybody from 154 to 168 a tough night.
I think we figured that out, though. The Queensbury matchmakers, that's right. That's an open goal. Brad Pauls against Denzel Bentley. That is an absolute fight. That could be Brad Paul's homecoming fight in Cornwall. That's a fight that just cannot deliver. That's a fight of the year kind of fight all over it. That is.
Yeah, exactly. And it works for Denzel as well. He's almost got to be selfish at this point. He's got to put himself in the best positions to win the best belts. It's going to then move him on to bigger and better things. So pushing himself to the front of this queue in theory to get the Brad Pauls fight. Yes, it's selfish, but it's the best thing for him to do at this point. His career is 32, 33, I want to say at this point. He needs to be moving on now. One more loss in Denzel's career, and then we're not looking at him getting these opportunities again. If he's serious about another title at world level, then the time is now to push on through this British and Commonwealth level again and start fighting the Eubank Juniors, the Mosley Juniors, and possibly for vacant belts, etc., as they fall apart.
Yeah, I thought, especially with him stopping Osaze so early, I really wanted him to say something on the mic. And that's probably one of the only downsides for me with Denzel Bentley is he's very reserved in terms of call-outs and stuff. He's very respectful. He's an old school fighter, isn't he? He lets his fist do the talking.
Yeah, he is, definitely.
Last night was perfect timing for him to just grab the mic and say, right, who do you think you are? And blah, blah, blah. And he could have talked himself into a massive fight last night with Chris Eubank Jr. Whether Chris Eubank Jr. would take it or not is a different kettle of fish. But I think if you play to somebody's ego, totally different circumstances. But do you remember when Tony Bellew kicked off
David Hay? Yeah.
I said at the time, what's he doing, the dickhead? That fight's never going to happen. And, the weight divisions apart, and it's never... 6 months later, I was sat watching it. So you never know. You appeal to someone's ego and start pushing the right buttons, it could, if he said the right thing, the Eubank... Because for me, that fight is sellable. Denzel Bentley's a world level middleweight. Chris Eubank Jr., I know he's calling out Canelo and God knows whoever else, but we know those fights, they're not there. They're not there. They can be made, but they're not there. They're not even close. This, as we said, that WBO and possibly WBA titles may become vacant in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Denzel Bentley, I think, is ranked 2 or 3.
He's 2, and number 1's Hamza Shiraz, and Hamza Shiraz is gonna go. He's tied up, and he's gonna go the WBC route. He's number 1 with the WBC, and he's gonna fight Carlos Adames. He's not gonna fight Janabek. I don't think that. I think Janabek will move up personally, to be honest.
Janabek struggled at last weigh in for me. I think he looked really, really tight.
That fight was pulled, wasn't it? His last fight. They didn't allow him to fight.
Pulled, he couldn't make the weight. He was
pulled,
in hospital with dehydration and all sorts.
Yeah.
He's got to get stripped.
Shouldn't be fighting at that weight again. Yeah.
No, stripped or vacate.
You should not be allowed to fight at 160 again. As soon as you put yourself in a position where you're not able to make weight, then it's getting dangerous. That's your sign to move up. Don't boil yourself down again.
So there's a fight there. There's the Eubank Jr. is 56th in the WBO rankings. He'd get it on name alone. His dad was the WBO champion for long enough. I think his dad defended that belt 6 or 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
So they'd give him that fight anyway.
I think the way Ben Shalom's been acting and the way Eubank's been acting, they've got something up their sleeve. I think they've got a big fight on Beterbiev Bivol on the Saudi card. I think that they've got something going on, definitely. That you can just tell Ben Shalom was looking all proud of himself at the Madrimov-Crawford fight week and all that. There's definitely something there with Eubank Jr. He's got a big fight on the go.
And I think the other thing with Eubank, and we said it during the week, I don't think we don't think he cares about belts. He's purely there to fight the biggest names and make as much money as possible. Yeah, he's not there for belts. He wouldn't. For God's sake, he's a 2-time IBO world champion. For him, that's him as a world champion for life, regardless. What more does he need?
That's his legacy.
Carry that around nightclub still, mate, as he's walking in there. That's all he needs. He doesn't care about anything else.
He's still got it on as the boy.
Sleeps with it, doesn't he, each night?
It's a strange one. I mean, Denzel Bentley's coming off a career, not the best performance in his career, but it's up there in terms of visually, but he's in an awkward position now. Most of the top 5 are tied up, either domestically or on world level. It's going to take. Well, this is what he pays Frank Warren a percentage for. It's time for the matchmakers to do their thing, because time's not on his side either. You touched on it, Liam. He's the wrong side of 30. He's probably got 3 or 4 years left. So the time's now. I'm really, really hoping that they announce a big fight for him. He deserves it. Yeah. I mean, he's 2-time British champion. He's only ever lost to top level fighters in terms of performances. I'd like to see him get a shot again. When he's properly prepared. When he fought, wasn't ready.
This is where the relationship Frank's had with the WBO for years comes into its own. Like we say, Janabek moves up. It's either that famous WBO interim that we see in the likes of Flanagan, Frampton, Liam Smith in recent years get their hands on thanks to Frank, or it's a full world title, isn't it? He'll have something up his sleeve. You never know. It might land on a Saudi show, and then the money
he'll get a fight with
Denzel's life changing.
Frank was the first big promoter to actually put WBO world title fights on.
Acknowledge it. Yeah, he's the first, wasn't he?
They didn't take that belt. That belt, like we're dismissing the IBO. No disrespect to IBO. If you want to give me some belts, send me some belts through the post. But no, in all seriousness, Frank was got into bed with the WBO 30 odd years ago. So his relationship is solidified. If anybody can get a shot, it's Uncle Frank.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll tie Bentley and Sarsi up there. Great win for Denzel Bentley. We'll go over to Canada now. The big hitting Christian Mbilli fought Sergei Derevyanchenko. A man who's never been stopped. He's been in there with Golovkin, Danny Jacobs, Carlos Adames. He's only really lost to, and Munguia, I think, is another one who's beaten fairly recently. But he's never been stopped. The fight was won comfortably by Christian Mbilli. Didn't tell a story. He would have won the fight comfortably anyway. We said beforehand when we previewed the fight, ultimately Derevyanchenko is a 38-year-old guy. He's been at 160 for a lot of his career. But it was cute matchmaking for me from Top Rank and Mbilli's backers. He hurt his arm or his bicep or something like that. At one point, he actually hurt Mbilli in like round 7 or something. And he threw about 6 or 7 right hands in a row after that, and was going at Derevyanchenko with it. But it was comfortable. He hurt me a few times. I actually thought the corner could have probably pulled out Sergei Derevyanchenko during that. I don't know about you guys, but I know he's got this never been stopped mantra kind of around him. So interesting, but for me, kind of played out how
we said it. We said it. Talk about Abdullah Mason. Yeah, we might touch on that, but it went how we said it'd go. He's 38 years old. He's past his prime. He's past his best. And he fought a younger, fresher guy. That fight might have gone differently 5 years ago, but it's not 5 years ago. It was last night. Good performance, but good. He did what he needed to do to get the win. As you say, it could have it possibly could have been stopped, but it wasn't. He got the win. Onwards and upwards.
Yeah, absolutely. First thing before we move on to Mbilli, give props to Derevyanchenko. His bicep went in round 4 and he still fought through this whole second half of that fight one-handed. Never wanted to quit, never took a backward step. So let's give him his props. His fight before this, he only lost because of a knockdown against Munguia. If it wasn't for the knockdown in the 12th, that would have been a draw with how the scorecards came out at the end of that fight. So let's give the guy his props. 38 or not, he's still in there doing what he does. For me, Mbilli done exactly what he needed to do. Didn't take any risks, didn't allow himself to get drawn into the type of fight where Derevyanchenko could gain confidence and perhaps catch him cold. He fought a smart fight. We're seeing levels to his game. He's starting to show that he's not just a knockout artist. He can go through gears. He can box on the back foot. He showed good range from on the outside, on the inside, mixed up well to the head and body. And it was a comfortable, routine 10-round point victory without taking any risks, which hopefully the upshot of that means he'll get out again in a bigger fight before the end of this year. Because although there was an ice pack on his shoulder at the end of the fight, I didn't see his post-fight interview. I'm not sure if he has an injury to that shoulder, but if he has come through healthy, there's no reason why we shouldn't see him out again before the end of this year. Absolutely, making another step up.
We'll come to Abdullah Mason in a second for you, my friend. Definitely, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate that. For me, Christian Mbilli is probably going to be looking down that William Skull-Shishkin matchup that's going to come up for the vacant IBF super middleweight championship, unless he's looking for a Canelo payday. I don't think Canelo takes the risk of Christian Mbilli. I'd love to see Mbilli fight Jaime Munguia. Now he's doing work with Top Rank, isn't he, for his next fight now, Munguia? So that for me is a cracking matchup. Jaime Munguia against Christian Mbilli. I think that should be one that we see.
Mbilli and Munguia in New York, Vegas towards the end of this year is the fight to make for both of them. Munguia is just coming off of his first defeat of his career. He was taken close by Derevyanchenko, if you want to find the marker between the two, in his fight before last, and Mbilli's just beat him relatively comfortably without having the same life or death that we saw Munguia have. It's high risk, high reward for both, but that's the sort of fights that you want to be seeing Mbilli having at this point of his career. And you wouldn't expect Munguia to take too many steps back down the ladder after the fact he was 43-0 before he stepped into that Canelo fight. Regardless of what you think of that record being up to 43-0, he was a 43-0 fighter before he fought Canelo.
So it's heavily padded, but at the end of the day, he got there. You wouldn't
expect too many backward steps.
Abdullah Mason. Don't know if you guys. I saw the kids special. He genuinely does look one of the hottest talents in boxing. That 135-pound division is. I know the kid's only 19, 20 years old or whatever it may be, but he looks like he could be right up there with the likes of Tank and Shakur, even within the next 18 to 24 months. Yes, I know he's not fighting the level of opposition that those guys are right now, but he's a 20-year-old guy. Again, won in a couple of rounds last night, had his man down, I think, in the first, and then got rid of him after that. But he looks like he's the real deal, this boy.
It reminds me of Ray Ford.
Yeah.
Very similar to Ray Ford.
Love Ray Ford.
For 135, likes hooks to the body underneath the elbows, and when he smells blood, he's special. I'm interested to see him come through. I hope they don't throw him in too early. But saying that, he's had 15 fights, and they're making a lot of noise. They love him over there in the States.
Yeah, they're making real noise about him.
Yeah, I'd like to see him fight somebody in the top 20.
You can't feed him to the Lions just yet. There's a path that needs to be taken. Yes, he's 15-0 and he's stopped most of his opponents, but at the same time, you can't just jump from there to Shakur, Tank, Lomachenko, and people like that.
No.
He's a 20-year-old kid, and I think Top Rank will do the right thing. They'll start now moving him up slowly. He'll get a hold of America's Continental belt or something similar to that, and then that's him with a ranking and possibly push on from there.
Well, the age of him at 20 years old, if they time it right, he could fight one of the champs of today in 2 or 3 years' time. Or, bear with me here, don't shoot me down, by the time he's 23, 24, in a way, could be at 135, and we get some big super fight with this kid that's 30-0, and he's gone through everybody. And do you know what I mean? I'd like to see him have a few 4 or 5 good top level fights, work his way up properly, and just see what he's got. But yeah, he's one to watch. Definitely an amazing one.
And there's absolutely no rush. This kid's 20 years old. He's not going to make a dent in the big boys at this division, top end of this division at this point. So build him carefully, build him up either to catch them at the right time as they're coming down the other side of the mountain, or to be there as that statement name, like we said, in 3-4 years' time when the division starts clearing, to make it his own. He definitely will. There's one thing Top Rank are good at doing, is managing talent to get them in a position to maximise the potential they have.
They're the kings at doing that. Top Rank are most definitely. So yeah, that's Abdullah Mason. We'll move on to the heavyweight fight before we talk about some current issues, and then we'll finish up. So Vinello against Aslanabek Makhmudov. We saw him last time out against Ajit Kabiel, who exposed him in Saudi Arabia. He didn't look like he wanted to be in that fight whatsoever. Kabiel absolutely annihilated him. It was a similar kind of story last night. He got a real bad, it looked almost like his orbital might have gone or something during that fight, but he was never in it again. Like he just plods, and he's been exposed, hasn't he? Really now he's a big, mean-looking guy, a heavyweight. He's been exposed,
and I mean that as in physically. I don't mean the guy's a nasty guy and he's a bully, but what I mean is he's a flat trap bully. So the second he gets punched back in terms of like hurt and he's not in complete control, he seems to just crumble and he just doesn't know what to do. Once he got wobbled against Kabayel, he just completely fell apart. Very similar in stature and looks. And this is no disrespect to David Price, but he reminds me a lot of David Price.
Yeah, really I know where you're going.
Really heavy-handed, but when it falls apart, it completely, the wheels fall off, the engine block drops out, and he gets ruined. I read a couple of interviews last week where, you know, the lion's back, and I needed to get that. A defeat's good, and I needed to get it out of my system and watch this and watch that. And here we are, 24 hours later, and he got his ass handed to him again. I don't believe as good as they ever said he was.
Yeah, like you say, Kabayel completely exposed him, took him out in complete style, if we're honest, on the Saudi card at the back end of last year. It was away from the main 2 fights. That was my performance of the night for me, Kabayel, back at just before Christmas last year. They built Makhmudov back up. He had a fight against Ramakhanin in May, I think it was, and that was a 2-round blowout. And now they put him back in with, if we're being honest, the heavyweight who hasn't really got a signature win, who isn't a danger to the division, was in there realistically as cannon fodder to help carry on his carry on his rehabilitation process. And from the second round onwards, he was picking them off. And if we were honest, the doctor could have stopped that from the first time he looked at him between the 4th and 5th round. He gave him far too many chances. Mark Ramsey in the corner was telling him, there's more important things than boxing here. I'm pulling you out of this fight. There's more things for you to worry about than fighting. If you got your corner saying that to you, and then the doctor came over and stopped it anyway, but the fact his corner was saying it to him, I think tells you everything you need to know about where Makhmudov is. He's a big, scary guy. But yeah, like you say, love Pricey, but if Pricey took a few shots, then you knew the wheels were going to fall off and you knew what the end result was going to be. Makhmudov, if anything, is a more drastic version of that. When the wheels fall off of Makhmudov, they fall off dangerously.
He looks like he's never been hurt before. Like as soon as he gets hurt, I've seen it in gyms. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they practice. My brother used to do it like he'd spin maybe 50 times while looking down at the ground.
When your equilibrium's gone, kind of.
Yeah, he'll drop to the floor and then get up, and then he's got to try to defend himself. It's like he's never, ever been buzzed before, because as soon as he gets buzzed, he just completely don't know how to hold.
Unravels
so bad. I was shocked that Kabayel beat him so easy. And then last night, like you said, Liam, I expected him to win the fight because I thought, well, they've picked an opponent to make him look good, to give him his confidence back, to then make another push to try get him a big fight. And that fight could have got stopped 2 or 3 times before it did. It's a shame because he looks the part. He's a Bond villain, isn't he? He's a stereotypical film villain. He's a massive, massive unit of a man. Looks
definitely
scary, but can't fight.
So
just,
go on, Liam, carry on, mate.
Just backing up the point, Vianali before last night was 12-2-1. That was his record going into that fight. I hadn't set the world alight, just having a quick scroll of his record. The only name on there I recognise is Jay McFarlane, who we probably remember from that horrendous Scottish title fight when Taylor and Catmull fought the first time round.
The big lad, isn't he? The
yeah.
Drago.
Yes. Nothing on that record at all to suggest that he would do what he done last night. And,
Cannon fodder, like Sam said, he was brought there to get beat. And he put a right spanner in the works. Good luck to the kid. I hope he gets a decent fight off the back of that now.
He's 30 years old. He's ranked now number 25 in the world as a heavyweight. There'll be work for him out there. He's 6'6", 30 years old. Heavyweights we know come into their peak later on than some of the fighters we've been talking about. He's someone who deserves a payday now, and hopefully, like you say, hopefully he'll get it. But Makhmudov needs to have a serious think about if he wants to carry on, because I tell you what I don't like about Makhmudov, and I said a similar thing after the Caballel fight, that neck twitch he does when he's taking punches. Something about it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it made me feel uncomfortable against Caballel, and it was the same last night. I don't like the look of it.
When I saw it against Caballel, the twitch, I thought, has he got a head injury? Is there something wrong here? I thought, and then he was doing it again last night. It's not. It doesn't look good, does it?
No,
doesn't sit right with you when you're seeing and he's not just once or twice. He's doing it repeatedly over the course of it. Yeah.
We'll move on past that now, guys, to any news that's coming in. So anyone that's with us, we've got 3 or 4 with us currently firing some talking points, and we'll have a go into them. I'll start us off with Canelo Alvarez and Turki Al-Sheikh. You know, what is going on there? Talk to me about that.
Get them in a room, can't we, and just have a conversation.
That's the gloves are off episode I paid to see Turkey.
Johnny
room with Johnny Nelson in the middle of them. That'd be worth a pay-per-view price on its own, wouldn't it?
Turks made him an offer. Canelo said no, I want 200. Turkey said I'm not willing to pay it. Let's move on. I'm sick of hearing about it now. All this back and forward, doing my head in.
So what's happened essentially is that Canelo said, I don't want to do anything until after the Berlanga fight because I'm locked in on that. I don't want to be making no deals. And Turkey's then said, I don't like the way Canelo does business. And then Canelo's going, well, I don't like the way Turkey does business because I'm not doing anything until my fight's over. So I kind of get it that way. But I think where Turkey needs to probably, understand is where a lot of these B-side elite fighters that he's kind of working with. And to say that, Crawford's not a B-side, and, the likes of Haney's going to word him. He's not a B-side, Shakur. But these guys aren't on Canelo Alvarez's earning level. Like, Canelo's a different stratosphere to earning what these guys. So, like, he can fight on PBC cards like he's doing against Berlanga next month, and he's going to earn 35, 40, $50 million. And, the man doesn't need any amount of money in the world. So you can't just write a figure on a piece of paper to him and he's going to jump to the tune. He's not. It doesn't work like that. Whereas the other guys...
Turkey's realising that they don't all jump when he says jump. A lot of them do. No. And a lot of them are kissing his butt cheeks and taking the money and sitting in the corner like a good boy. Canelo's the face of boxing and has been the face of boxing for 5 or 6, 7, 8 years now. As you said, he's not going to jump to anybody's tune. Canelo will make a decision when he's ready to make a decision. Leave him to it. Let's negotiate like adults, not on social media, because you're not gonna piss him off into making a decision. And it seems as though Turkey's trying to poke him and prod him and poke him and prod him.
Yeah, it's going to make him go the other way.
Exactly. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the fight, the Crawford fight. I don't even think he necessarily wants the Crawford fight. He's got nothing. Canelo has got nothing further to prove to anybody. Not himself, not the boxing community, nobody. Canelo's fought them all in the peak, out of the peak. He's only been beat by the best. He's got nothing further to prove. He's going to make himself some money. He's going to fight Berlanga, and then he might fight somebody else or he might not. He's not going to get bullied into making a decision because Turkey wants to do it now. It don't work like that with Canelo. No. Canelo's different gravy.
Canelo, Tank is another one who's not been whistling to the Turkey tune. A lot of these guys who are, making a hell of a lot of money doing their own thing, they don't necessarily, yes, they can make more with Turkey probably, but they don't need him. That's the difference. They don't need him.
It's not life-changing.
It's not life-changing.
Naira Nue is another one.
I think the 3 fights you just mentioned there, Tank, Inoue, and Canelo, it's not just as simple as Turkey going to them with a big sum of money and saying, this is what I'm giving you for this fight, come over. All their commercial partners, every single person that's got Canelo into its position for Berlanga, etc., needs to be consulted, because if they don't agree with the move, then that could be, talking outside of boxing here, that's an illegal dispute that's taken Canelo away from fighting, and that could give a whole wider ramification of problems away from boxing. What Turkey probably is starting to realise is, okay, Tyson Fury absolutely will come and take the money. Anthony Joshua, okay, AJ has a massive commercial appeal as well, but it's easier to get him to move into that position because he needed Saudi at the time Saudi came in. Yeah. Whereas Canelo doesn't need Saudi. He's got numerous commercial partners. He will make a 6-7 figure payday out of fighting Berlanga, whether the fight goes 12 rounds or 30 seconds. It makes no difference. Yeah. And he's got to look after his best interests. He needs to protect all his assets as opposed to just jumping on, you want to offer me flipping 7-8 figures to take a fight? No, hold on a minute. I need to prioritize what's best for me and, look after his long-term revenue as opposed to just what he's doing in boxing now for me.
It's the brand, isn't it? It's not just the fighter alone. Canelo has a brand, he has a team, as you say, there's sponsors, there's partners, there's a lot to consider. It's not a case of just, write me a check for X amount and I'll jump across. Like you say, Liam, he has to consult other members of the Canelo brand. And it's not, like we said, it's not life-changing money for him. That guy's worth 150 million already, so another 150 million, I'm not saying it pales into insignificance, but he's not just going to jump.
It's not going to change his life. It's just going to make him more rich. It's not going to change anything he does.
When he wants to box and he plays golf and rides horses, his life's set. Turkey giving him 200 million ain't going to make any difference to his life as it stands, other than he'll have an extra 200 million in the bank. But as you say, it's not a life-changing for him. So he'll do it when he wants to do it on his terms. Mm-hmm. And Turkey doesn't like that because everybody else, promoters and boxers alike, have jumped when he said jump. Canelo's not doing that, so they're arguing it out on bloody social media.
Definitely. Been some rumours in the week about Shakur Stevenson facing Joe Cordina in his debut at £135. What do we think about that?
I hope not. Liam?
Yeah, I said what I said when we talked about it on X in the week, mate. That is a hell of a baptism of fire for Cordina, not the route he should be going down.
Get smashed a bit.
And I tell you, and another point I made,
I'm a fan.
Yeah, but I'm a massive Cordina fan. Like I said, the fact if Eddie and Matchroom have been looking after your entire career, and then they bring in Canelo as their new, Shakur as their new golden goose, and the first thing they do is a fighter they've managed since he came out of the Olympics, and they feed him to this generational talent. What does that say to you about what your promotional company is looking as well? They're not all of a sudden you've become the cannon fodder. Because Cordina could go out there and win.
They're setting him up as a highlight reel because Kakachi blasted him out of there. Albeit it might have been, drained at the weight and other things outside of the ring may have influenced that fight. But Tank is not the guy to be moving up to a new weight division to face. It's mental for me. And Eddie Hearn, if he had any amount of respect that he says he has for Joe Cordina, would not be just throwing him to the wolves like that. And that's what it feels like. He's doing it for Tank, not for Joe.
Shakur. Doing it for Shakur.
I thought they were on about him fighting Tank, not Shakur.
No, it's Shakur.
No, Shakur Stevenson.
Or Stevenson, yeah.
Either or. I mean, he'll get...
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. Tank's got a date reserved November the 2nd at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas.
T-Mobile, yeah.
So I have read somewhere that Cordina's name was bandied around.
Well, in fairness, it could be. So, let's see what that brings. Hopefully it's Shakur Stevenson. That would be phenomenal.
I think Stevenson beats the brakes off Joe Cordina. I don't believe that that fight should be made either. Coming off his last performance, he should be given a fight to get the feet back underneath him. You don't throw him straight. I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. He's a 2-time world champion, but at a new weight division going in against one of the supposed pound for pound, it's a risk that I don't believe Eddie should be taking with Joe.
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. Cordina needs to rebuild himself, fringe world, European level, especially at any weight division. Do it the right way, grow into the weight, not try and take chances. I mean, okay, he is the wrong side of 30, as we've spoken about with Denzel Bentley earlier on, but there is still time for him to find his feet in a new weight division, take a fight or two, and then make an assault. He doesn't need to jump into a fight that if he loses, he's got nowhere left to go. If he jumps straight into Shakur or Tank, let's bring Tank into this as well. If he jumps into both of them and loses, for me, he'll have nowhere left to go. That will be his career in tatters. Whereas if he takes the time to work his way, doesn't need to take a long time over it. But if he can take a couple of fights, maybe pick up a European belt, get ranked well with the governing bodies, then there you go. Then he can have an assault once he's naturally into the weight.
Just thinking a fight for him there. Did we not see that Lee Wood's gone up?
Yeah, Lee Wood's moved up to 130, hasn't he now? Yeah.
He has, yeah. Wood has moved up.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I actually thought Cordina were going to retire after that loss.
Yeah,
wouldn't have surprised me.
I know what you mean.
That's yeah. So I was just going to say that Tony Sims gym has not been the same. Not getting into conspiracies. That Tony Sims gym has not been the same since Conor Ben. If we're looking at the fighters.
Yeah, they're really not.
We're not. Let's not get into anything here. But let's look. If we went through what fighters were doing, it's a valid point to make. Since Conor Ben popped hot, the run that Tony Sims Gin has been on, you could put, is on a downward trajectory. He doesn't have. I think he's only left with one world champion now. He had 3 or 4.
Yeah, well, it was Ryder losing. Felix. Oh no, Felix wasn't with him. Was it? It was with
Felix was with
Adam Booth.
Adam Booth, yeah.
Yeah, it was John Ryder losing. Obviously, the Conor Ben thing happened. Joe Cordina lost, but like Joe Cordina was punching really hard as well. He knocked out the Japanese champion. I can't remember his name now, but that was an absolutely brutal knockout. But he again, we're not really making any accusations here or anything, but it's quite evident that the run the gym's been on is not good.
Yeah, the power of those fighters on that Matchroom gym has disappeared, hasn't it? That Matchroom gym that was a powerful gym. All the fighters were picking up KOs and fights quite easily. And now even Conor Ben's 2 fights, for what they're worth, he shouldn't be fighting. But fighters that at that level he was previously blowing through, he's laboured some points victories in both of them, hasn't he? Pete Dobson back in February was an awful fight. Didn't look like he had any of that power there. He looked like he'd stepped back to where he was in 2016, 2017 when he first came through, when he had to question whether or not he wanted to be a pro. After he had, if you remember, 6 or 7 fights, he sat down with his dad, didn't he? He's openly said he had to really consider if he actually wanted to be a pro boxer. Then he went on this run where he was dealing with Chris Algieri, Van Herden, and all those sorts of fighters. Yeah.
Then it's ironically coincidental, let's say.
Let's leave it at that,
yeah. We'll leave it at that, yeah. So, I think that'll do for this week's boxing podcast. Thanks to Jason and Liam for coming on as always. Give Jay's Fight Talk YouTube channel subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. Plenty of good fight sports content coming out of there, whether it's boxing, UFC, predictions, previews, shorts. He's got it all covered. Liam has got lots of good things on the horizon, which will be announced in due course. So please keep an eye on that also. But thanks very much as always for coming on, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll do it again in the not too distant future as always.
Pleasure, boys. See you again soon.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.